Welcome, Illumineers. It is time to take a rest from your quest and check in to the lore keepers in. I'm your host, Katie. Now, here at the end, we encourage our guests to take advantage of our extensive DVD and VHS library. However, we can't spend all our budget on fancy pants theatrical releases, so I've curated the next best thing, which is direct-to-video prequels and sequels. To make the most of my collection, we are kicking off a series today called Movie Night at the End. So each episode, myself and a guest will discuss one of 29 prequels and sequels that never quite made it to theaters. We're going to tell you the plot, discuss what we liked, discuss some concerns, because there are some concerns, determine if it was good, as good as the original, better, or worse. And lastly, do we think it needs to be in the Disney Lorcana? So as we close out, we'll go ahead and put it back on the shelf, and it'll be a tier list. We're going to see, how does it compare to its peers? This won't be hard because it's the first one. So since this is a very special episode, of course, I needed a very special guest. And I was lucky enough to have a celebrity stop by. One, she's not starring in interviews on the official Lorecast or creating content on her incredible show, Live, Laugh, Lorcana, with her sister, a fellow Katie. You can find her concocting cosplays and encouraging TCG players to buy more houseplants. The one and only Becky.
Hi, Katie. It's so nice to see you again. I always love talking to you, and I'm so touched and tickled, really, that you invited me on today.
I am excited. I'm excited that you accepted because I love obscure things. And some of these movies, I was reading them to my husband, and I read the first one. I was like, Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. And he's like, what? And I was like, you can't react. There's 29 more of these, and they're all weird. And it was before the internet too, right? So, I think you were at the mercy of your parents on if you knew about these movies or friends.
Yeah, or the local Blockbuster Family Video.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, if you were given free reign. But I don't know. I don't know what happened. Maybe my family, they were protecting me. I was sheltered from this. So, and that's good. I'm proud of them for it. So I can't help myself. I'm going to start with some facts because I was kind of, this is the first one. So viewers, listeners, you might be saying, where are these movies coming from? If they weren't in theaters, where were they? So, before streaming, there was this middle path where you could release videos just straight. The movie wouldn't come out in theaters. It would just pop up in a store one day. So Disney, this is in the Eisner era. They were like, what if every few months we just put out a movie? So it was under a completely different umbrella. It's not even technically Disney Animation. It's Disney Movie Tunes, which already sounds suspect. It's like Great Value Disney. Did you have any of these videos growing up?
Yes. I feel like I've seen most of them, at least until 2000 maybe.
Yeah.
But I remember particularly Lion King 2. I really loved, and Pocahontas too. So those were my two favorites, but I have seen a lot of them.
Okay. Because I have seen, I think, almost none of them, which is weird, but it kind of makes sense because they started in the early 1990s. So they were kind of doing that, putting them out. You would go to the store, they'd just be there. So John Lasseter from Pixar came over to Disney as chief creative officer during the merger in 2006. And he was like, I hate these, which is ironic knowing that after that, Cars 2 and so, I don't know. But either way, he was like, I don't like these. If we're going to make a sequel, it's going to be in theaters. We're going to stand by it. And something that I thought was interesting is, so these were the ones that we could have had, but John Lasseter took from us. They were doing Pinocchio 2, Dumbo 2, Aristocats, Chicken Little, and Meet the Robinson. Which is interesting. I would like to know what Pinocchio 2 is. Yeah. Knowing the plot of this movie, I'm wondering if it's Pinocchio has a son and his son wants to be a puppet. Maybe she's like, all I want to do is be a puppet. But we'll see. So at that point, John Lasseter is like, you can make Tinkerbell movies. So if you look at the Disney Toon, something happened in 2006, and they're like, only Tinkerbell. And those are actually kind of good. I've seen those. I don't know why. I was definitely an adult at that point, but apparently I had a weekend with Tinkerbell. Have you seen any of those?
I haven't, but I've heard they're surprisingly good.
They are. Yeah. And there's a new Tokyo Disney ride that's themed on it that you can go through Pixie Hollow, and I'll do it. It sounds delightful. But But today, we are talking about The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea, which was made in the year 2000. If you look at it on the surface, it's very impressive. Jodie Benson came back. When I saw that, I was like, Jodie Benson. And my husband's like, who's Jodie Benson? I'm like, that's Jodie Benson. So they got her. They got Kenneth Mars as King Triton. So King Triton came back. Samuel E. Wright came back as Sebastian. Buddy Hackett as Scuttle. It was his final film before he passed. And Pat Carroll. And this is very interesting. They just said, this is Ursula's return, basically. Like, this is the first Ursula's return because they just had her come back and they're like, you're Morgana. But
that was funny because my husband and I were watching it, and Cody's like, that's Pat Carroll. I'm like, that can't possibly be Pat Carroll. It's just like a different voice actress who has a similar voice. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that really is Pat Carroll. And Katie, I love voice actors. Did you recognize anybody else in here? Very exciting.
Oh, no. Okay. This is as far as I went.
I got you.
Okay.
So, immediately hearing Undertow the shark is Mr. Krabs' voice from SpongeBob.
That's amazing.
I know. And then, of course, Melody is Tara Strong, who is like the voice actress. You know, she's like...
That's Tommy Pickles, right?
Dill Pickles, but...
Dill Pickles. Oh, sorry.
But she's also, Timmy Turner, Raven from Teen Titan. Okay. You know, she was Riku in Final Fantasy. Like, she's been on everything. Bubbles, Powerpuff Girls. So it was fun seeing her there. And this, I noticed this one very quickly. Eric's voice actor is Rob Paulson, who immediately I recognized because he is Yakko in the Animaniacs.
And I like in this movie, they kept it there. Like, Prince Eric, we don't need to know anything about you. Like, they kept the tradition alive. Like, in the first movie, Prince Eric is just a guy. In this movie, they said he, like, comes onto the screen 10 minutes too late 3 times. He, like, walks in and they're like, oh, sorry, we already had a conflict.
Yeah.
And so
he simply exists to be the partner of Ariel and father of Melody and nothing else.
Yeah. I was briefly taking notes because I was like, this is an academic exercise. And within the first 2 minutes, I wrote Prince Eric singing jump scare because he just randomly sings one line. And I'm like, oh, is that a thing? And then no, he just sings one line.
Not again.
No. He's like, I think I did my part. So yeah, I was very impressed that they got the cast back. I think Little Mermaid is iconic because, Howard Ashman did really good job on the music. Listeners at home, if you want to have a fun exercise, pull up the soundtrack to this on iTunes. It's only 3 songs, and the rest is just Sebastian covering songs. He sings like Iko Iko. He sings Hot Hot Hot. He sings Octopus's Garden by the Beatles. So I like that somebody was in a boardroom like, well, we have to release it, but we can't release a CD with 3 songs. And they're like, yes, yeah, Samuel E. Wright, you want to record 3 songs? And he's like, oh, okay.
Right.
And that's, somebody bought it, maybe.
Did you think the 3 songs, the 3 original songs, are they bangers? Bops?
I have had one of them stuck in my head all day. So like I was talking mad trash last night on it, but I've had like the Ariel's, like, I don't know what the words are, but her little melody, which is funny, that's her name. I didn't realize that was her name. I thought she was just talking about You're My Melody, but I was like, oh no, it's literally your name. It's Melody. I would not expect one of the 3 songs to be a duet between a walrus and a penguin, but
there you go.
Inconsequential to anything. Well, they are consequential, I guess, later. So yeah. Now this is spoiler alert. Like, if you've been waiting and you're like, this is the year I was gonna watch it, and then I listened to this podcast, we are gonna discuss the plot, but it's important, and I think it's still worth watching afterwards because it's some of the stuff you can hear it, but you got to see it to believe it. Because it starts with the exposition as a song, which is, good, classic Disney. Ariel standing in front of the largest window. There's no window in this window. She's just standing there with her child saying, like, we're going to the ocean, which would be menacing in any other situation where mom's like, I'm taking my child to the sea. But she's like, we're going to do it. They get in a boat. They're like, everybody, we have to go deep into the ocean, which will be relevant later. Because you get the impression she's like, the only way I can see my family is if we like sail out there. 10 minutes later, Triton's at the beach. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know why they had to go very, very deep into the ocean. So yeah, there is the first song of the movie. Did it resonate with you? Was that a tradition you had with your wee child, where you took them?
No, I am hesitant always in large bodies of water. So no, I can't
You should be
do the drive.
And
I
to be
respect the
fair,
ocean.
Ariel didn't. She went out there. She's like dangling her baby over the edge. I'm like, Ariel, that's not a merbaby.
Very Michael Jackson of her.
Yes. And so she's dangling her child over the boat to be like, Dad, look. And what do you know? Ursula 2 is here. And she's like, by the way, they do something that is my favorite thing that movies do sometimes, where they explain something a little too far and then never explain the thing that they added. Ursula and her sister Morgana, they mention her mom. They're like, our mom. And like, you're like, when am I going to get to see Ursula's mom? I've never even thought about that. You don't. So don't get excited.
Also voiced by Pat Carroll.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's just Pat Carroll doing like a 3-person part. And they're like, well, that's confusing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Katie. Was Triton not Ursula's sibling?
I thought that was a thing too. Yeah, I thought that was like, oh yeah, that we're all part of this. Yeah, but no, apparently, maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. But they said like, mom always loved you. So maybe Triton was the rebel and he's like, I'm going to be king. And they're like, well, we're sea witches. I don't know. There's a lot to be said there. There is another Little Mermaid movie, and I assume they go very deep into this and bring back Pat Carroll a third time.
Did you? Sorry, I just have to ask. Did you watch Ariel's beginning?
No, I'm so excited. I've seen barely any of these.
I haven't watched it, but I did read the plot, and like,
oh no,
it's like Footloose. So
go. That's perfect.
No music in the ocean, and Ariel's like, no, I gotta sing. So something to look forward to in the future.
Well, and I do like it. I like that in writing this. It's going to seem like I'm dogging on this movie, and I am, because I think that this movie was written in a place of creative liberty. I think the whole point of these movies, they're like, we just make them. I don't know, go do it. And they did it. And in that, I think it made its own kind of art. So everything I'm saying is with love, because I think movies like this are wonderful for what they are. So Ursula's sister, she's skinny, but just Ursula. She comes up, she's like, I'm taking your baby. And they're like, what? And so then Ariel does the most insane thing. She does like a Ruth Goldberg. I don't think that's what it's called, but she basically like throws a sword that does a rope that throws the baby.
Right. A Ruth Goldberg machine. Yeah.
Yeah. A Joe Goldberg machine. Yeah. And then Prince Eric saves the baby. And Ariel, she immediately goes, she can't know about mer people. She can't know about you, Dad. She tells Triton just like, sorry, I can't. And like, she doesn't explain that decision. She's just like, it won't work. Morgana is like, I'm going so far away, you'll never find me. And then it's true. They never find her. And then,
if she's gone, though, isn't the baby safe? I mean, really?
I mean, if they're safe, just like stay on the shore. But the next scene you see, so Triton immediately goes, okay. And he just leaves. And he's like, whatever, that's fine. He takes it on the chin. And then they time jump 12 years, and you see that they have walled off the beach castle with like a wall. Which just is jumping ahead, but I'm just so excited about it. I think they should make a second wall location, and it's just Ariel's emotional defense mechanism of a seawall.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and then they say it's her 12th birthday, so they're doing an exposition. 12 years has passed, and Ariel's like, guess what? We're not going in the ocean. That's done. Even though I don't know where this country takes place, but they seem very dependent on sea economy. But Ariel's made the decision. And we meet Morgana. Nope. Melody. We meet Melody, and guess what? She likes the ocean so much. She likes it so much. She can hold her breath a really long time. She also is still friends with Sebastian. I Googled how long crabs live, and it's possible. They can live anywhere from 3 to 100 years, which I was like, I didn't know that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess any lobsters can live to be 100, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Crustaceans are like, we're not doing a lot. We just need to just keep doing this, and we're fine. So yeah, so Sebastian's hanging out with Melody. Melody's like,
shows the effectiveness of the wall. I mean,
yeah, she is constantly going back and forth. Both Atlantica and the Kingdom of Eric have no security. It's like 3 people in both locations, and they're like, we don't have time. So Morgana just loves the ocean. Sebastian's like, oh.
Melody.
Yeah, sorry. No, Melody does a very insensitive impression of Sebastian, which I'm like, I don't think you should do that, Melody. But she, and she's precocious. She's a precocious little child. They're having a birthday party, a big one. They introduce the Le Poisson chef. He's back. All the bangers, the butler guy, the maid lady, they all have names and they're all back for whatever. So they're still there. And yeah, basically they have a dance. It goes awry. The physics of Sebastian the Crab is revealed, that he weighs 1,000 pounds because Sebastian lands on the cake and it's a very large cake and it explodes. Yeah, so
it's huge. Also, I have to say, I'm confused. Just is so fast, I promise.
Yeah.
The fashions are confusing because it's supposed to be 1840 and everyone's still dressing like it's, I don't know, 1780, and it's confusing for me. That's all.
It's confusing. I mean, at least 4 times my husband was like, so is he Spanish? Are they in Spain? Is it Spanish? I was like, Jeff, I don't know where any of this is. I couldn't tell you. But I did message you that I do think it's important to note that the bang genetics in this family are so strong.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on, no matter where they are, they all have the same. How could you do it? Pomade? I don't know. But so yeah, the party goes awry. She's like, Mom, I'm just so weird. And all I want to do is live in the ocean. And her mom's like, you know what? My dad traumatized me as a kid, and I'm going to do it to you. And she's like, you'll never go.
Did you learn nothing from your experience? Come on.
I did think she was gonna. So Melody finds this like magical mermaid necklace, and Ariel's like, "Where'd you get that?" And she's like, "Oh, I found it." And I thought she was gonna destroy it. I'm like, Ariel, but no, she just traumatizes her a little bit, and then Eric walks in, and is like, "What happened?" And so then once again, Melody just breaches the seawall, and this time she gets in a boat, and she's like, "I'm going to the ocean." Which is remarkable in the sense that Ariel had studied people for a very long time. She was like, I know what they use. I don't know the words for it. I know there's one hot guy. I know there's a dog. And she had like some plans. But at this point, Melody's just like, I'm going to the ocean. I'll figure it out.
Very brave.
And then she does. She meets a shark that talks and she goes, I'll go with you. And she immediately, it's not technically a shark at this point. The shark is now.
It's like a piranha, sort of.
Yeah.
They call him an anchovy, but like that's not what he is.
They're constantly mislabeling. I'm like, I don't think flounder is a flounder or a guppy. That is true. So who knows? But yeah, so she follows the first talking sea creature and they go to the Arctic, which then brings up more questions because they
oh, you're telling me like why though? Why?
Yes. So Morgana apparently cannot leave this ice castle that she has. And so Morgana says, guess what? I have a little bit of magic. So they say that basically Ursula is the most powerful witch ever, which makes sense. She has a whole Lorcana set dedicated to her. And she's like, I'll use this little bit of magic to make you a mermaid for a certain amount of time. You don't have to do a contract or anything. It's for free. But apparently they reveal that only somebody related to Triton can grab the trident. So they need her to do it. I don't know. That seemed convoluted. So either way, she convinces Melody to go get the trident and bring it back. In the meantime, the movie says, hey, penguins. And then there's like this little aside where we meet this penguin and a walrus. They're not loved by the other penguins. It's difficult. They have a song. They're a very difficult duo.
It's the poor man's Flounder and Sebastian buddies.
Yeah. So Ariel goes to look for Melody. And she meets Flounder. It's not Flounder. It's Flounder's kid. And this is the most puzzling thing I've ever seen in my life. They made Flounder, aged him, and made him canonically a fat fish. Like he even like is like, yep, I'm older now. And I'm like, what?
Well, it was so much to process. I think it is interesting that he is the only one that aged out of everyone.
Yes, like even Ariel.
Ariel, not at all. Eric, absolutely not. Triton, all of them. Everyone's exactly the same except for Melody is a little older, and also Flounder's a single dad now.
He's a single dad who has some city miles on him. Like something he's like he's aged quite a bit in the sense that they coded him as a middle-aged fish, which is something.
Was he supposed to be? I guess he was supposed to be like a child fish, and
I guess yeah, because I guess they're both like peers, maybe. I don't know. How do you?
Flounder only lived 12 to 14 years.
So that was this is elderly Flounder. This is Grandfather Flounder.
I need to see it.
So he's like, I'll come with you, I guess. They have this weird sequence where they're like, we're going to go find Melody in the ocean. And then they do that. Melody's not only in Atlantica. She goes to Atlantica. She's in the same room as Triton. She sees Triton act really mad. And she's like, that's scary. And I'm like, true. Triton really needs to get that in check because he throws a table. But yeah, she just gets to Triton. She's like, anyway, bye. So she goes back and forth between the Arctic pretty fast. And then, yeah, she gets back and she gives Morgana, she's like, all right. Oh, and by the time she gets back with the Triton, she's like, hey, Mom, you're here. You kind of messed me up, so I'm going to do this. Like, Ariel's like, don't. That's a bad idea. You probably should not give this very evil-coded woman this powerful scepter. And she's like, well, I'm going to do it because I don't like you, Mom. And yeah, then hijinks ensue. It's the same kind of thing that happens at the end of Little Mermaid where she's like, I'm so and she gets like drunk on her own sauce. And she says, I control everything with fins. And Melody goes, Melody almost dies. I skipped that. Morgana's like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to drown you. I'm going to put you in a prison in which you drown, which I'm like, that is very scary to think about. But they get out due to the help of the walrus and penguin I mentioned earlier. But anyway, so they say, I control everyone with fins, and Melody's like, I don't have fins. She runs up and then uses the trident wrong, which was troubling because, like, a trident is already an object. Like, a trident not magical is still
right,
a
and
weapon.
she uses the non-pointy end.
Yes. Yeah, so Morgana talks trash on her. She's like, whatever, and she just throws it, and then Triton catches it and says, all right. And then he sends her to the watery depths. He doesn't destroy her. They did canonically say Ursula was shish kebab.
And sushi.
Yes. And then as Morgana descends to the Davy Jones locker, a picture of Ursula floats by for some reason. I don't know.
I recall that being in Morgana's little lair where she was like hating on it and like brought it out. Like, remember her, audience? Yeah. In case you forgot. It's not me. In case you missed the first one, and this is your opening to this world.
Yeah, you're like, I want to start kind of like Tarantino. Start in the middle, and then I'll start the first one, and then maybe the third one will come out one day. But yeah, so then they like, Eric shows up at one point, and the minute he gets there, his boat explodes, and he's like, oh. So it's like Eric is not being hopeful in this movie. He does catch Melody at one point, so that was quite nice. And so then they're like, oh, you're alive. And Triton says, I have a decision for you. Do you want to be a mermaid forever or a person forever? I'm like, geez, can we take a beat, Dad, Grandpa?
Honestly.
And she goes, I have an idea. And her idea is, did you know we can swim? And and then they sing a song that's kind of a reprise, kind of a third song, like both. And yeah, they're like, yeah, we can swim. This does leave the question, my like lasting question is, how many people know about merpeople? Because they're very showy with the merpeople. They bring a big staff to the merpeople party.
Yeah.
They're all swimming. So I don't know.
Yeah. Because all the land people came into the water and nobody commented on it.
No.
At all.
No, they're like, this is fine. And then she finds, my favorite thing is she finds a attractive boy merfolk. And she's like, and he's nice to her. And that's just like kind of a moment. I was like, look at this good-looking 12-year-old. I'm like, man, okay. I guess, sure, she can have a love interest briefly. Yeah, I raised some concerns, but I think, my first question is, were there things you liked? Were there things that you're like, you know what? I like that.
I do love kind of like a sequel, only for like the happily ever after factor, because most Disney movies end with kind of like, and everyone's together and it's beautiful, and it's kind of nice seeing like almost like the epilogue, like, wow, look at them, they have a baby and she's very cute. So that's fun.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite part.
Yeah, mine is my positive turns into a negative because I'm like, I can't believe you got Jodie Benson back. But then they got her back. They're like, we don't really have anything for you to do here, unfortunately. They have like a song she duets. Like, she doesn't even get her own song, which is like, come on. Which a fun thing that I realized a couple years ago is that Ariel only has one song in the Little Mermaid. She just has one, just an absolute banger, and that carries it enough where you're like, oh, she's the singing mermaid, and they're like, I'm sorry, Ariel, you only have time for one song.
I didn't even notice that, but you're so right.
But she does it so good that they're like, it dazzles you. Sebastian gets a lot of songs. In fact, so many that on the second movie, they let him have just some songs to sing for fun. So that was my positive, but then my negative is they're like, come on, like let her do something. I think the confusing part for me is they didn't explain why they just couldn't let her know a little bit about mermaids, just like a little bit, just like, mermaids, they're real. You have a very powerful, but not that powerful grandpa that's in the sea. He needs the Triton. They don't have good security, but anyway, they're there. And there's this very mischievous Yzma Ursula-coded woman that wants to kill you for some reason.
Yeah, I feel like that would have helped. And I can understand even like waiting till later to tell her about like the big evil. But I feel like, it was such a criticism of Triton that, was not interested in listening to what Ariel had to say, that maybe she should have been more open with her own child.
Yeah.
Break the cycle, Ariel.
I know, right? Like I think that's funny. You can tell millennials are making movies now because like the past 4 movies have been generational trauma. How do we break it? And that's just like the plot of Encanto, Seeing Red. I guess that's only 2 movies, but I just feel like we're like, let's make movies about people processing what's happened. Ariel didn't. She didn't. She built a literal and a metaphorical wall. And it's difficult to, I think with Ariel, you're like, I get it. Above the water seems cool. They dance. You can't dance as a mermaid. Did you play Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, I did.
I did giggle. There was like a part where she's like, how do I learn to swim? Do I go left? Do I go right? And I was like, is this about when you become a mermaid in Kingdom Hearts and you can't figure out how to swim?
You're so disoriented. I was literally thinking that as well. Watching the movie.
I was like, it's hard. Wow, maybe it is. I was like, yes, it is hard. I've been a mermaid too, Melody. Melody is in her what I thought was period piece underpants for like most of the movie.
What was that? Nobody commented.
Like, give her an outfit.
Either.
Yeah, they're like, she doesn't have clothes. She has to wear period piece undergarments. So I was like, all right, I guess. She's pretty rich. And she even like opens her closet. But I guess that's the show. She's the salt of the earth. She's not like these rich people.
Was the other thing at her party. She was there in her undergarments and nobody commented on it. They're just like, haha, she talks to crabs. Not like, haha, she's not wearing any clothes.
Yeah, I know the crab thing. And I like that Ariel was standing back like, I'm going to let you figure this out. Meanwhile, Le Poisson Man is going homicidal with a meat cleaver. It's a horror scene in many ways. So those were some concerns. But overall, it's tricky because, when you say, is it as good, better, or worse? I mean, Little Mermaid is hard to be like, if somebody's like, what are the best Disney movies? You're probably going to say Little Mermaid is one of them.
You're not, because you're probably not going to say Little Mermaid 2 Return to the Sea.
Unless something happened and you're like, they wouldn't let me see it. It was too controversial. But yeah, so they, you talk about like what made the first one so good, and it was the music, the whimsy, I think, and the journey. And the journey in this one was kind of just like a zigzag. It was like, I'm going to go to the ocean, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go back, I'm going to go here. And I didn't feel like I earned the payoff. And also King Triton, he's a very big pushover. I just like, when Ariel's like, I can never let her see you again. He's like, okay. Then he leaves. And
that was confusing.
And we still don't know anything about Ariel's sisters, which apparently have a chance of becoming an evil witch. That's like a thing that happens in this bloodline. But she does have many sisters and nobody cares about them. Or maybe they do off screen.
I'm really bad at remembering them. Who's whom. So anytime there was an adult merwoman in Atlantica, I'm like, is that Melody's aunt? No.
Are you related? Well, it could be because, I mean, when she was in Atlantica, there was 0 people. There was like 3 mermaids. There was like these 3 kids. And like the rest was abandoned. So maybe it's tough times there. It's just like 20 mermaids, merfolk, as we know. So I will rate myself as saying it was not as good as the original. And I don't think that's a hot take. But would you say it?
Yeah, it was not.
Okay. All right. Well, but then that comes back to Lorcana. Do you think there's anything that you're like, let's bring it in. That'd be fun. Because we got Frozen 2. Frozen 2's in there, so sequels can be in there.
Yeah, that's true. We'll have to hold out for the direct-to-video sequel being included. Honestly, like, single father flounder is absolutely on my top list.
Yeah, and he's like, I got bills to pay. I have a lot of responsibility. I have to put 5 fish through college. Flounder.
I feel like Melody's locket would be a fun little item. I don't know what it would do, but that was like a big plot piece.
Yeah. I would like a card that says this is an Ursula, and it's Morgana. It just says Morgana is not Ursula, and it's not Ursula returning. This is a third separate Ursula, because I know that's still a discourse. People are like, well, which one's which? And I'm like, well, wait till you find out. But there's like an Ursula industrial complex that's cranking out Ursula adjacent characters. So I would like that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I think the penguin, Skip and Scap, Skippy
Dash
and Dippy.
And Tip.
That's better. Dash and Tip, but they are fine. They don't need to be in there.
No, I was unimpressed with them as characters.
I would like an Eric card where whatever you do with him, you have to wait for a full turn for it to go into effect, because he was just always showing up and being like, hey guys, is this something? And they're like, no, it's over. So yeah, I guess that's Little Mermaid 2. I mean, I think you should watch it, listeners, because you deserve to know what can happen when somebody says, we have a movie, you can do it, I don't care, get it out there. And I think that's beautiful. Would you recommend this movie to a loved one?
Okay.
Maybe someone you're like apathetic.
Honestly though, my kids liked it.
And that's the thing, is like these movies exist, because I remember there was one I saw and I forgot what it was about because it didn't matter, because I remember seeing Mulan 2 and I was like, Mulan 2, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it's about, but I just know at the time that's all I cared about, is like, give me more Mulan. And I think in the age of streaming and YouTube and things like that, these sequels don't really have a much place in the world, because, we just reboot it. Instead of making sequels, they're like, we will just do it again, but this time live action. So we live in a different era now. So maybe that's after I finish these 28 movies. I then have to do the live action ones.
I'm wondering if a direct-to-video is similar to like, although this doesn't, because I was thinking like a streaming service movie, just like something we put on there for extra content or whatever. But most streaming services, the stuff they're putting out is actually very good.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, I think it's just a very unique microcosm. There's like whole YouTube channels about things that Disney was like, is this something? Like they had like a Disney cell phone company at one point. They had Disney gyms, Disney teen clubs, where they're like, well, like clubs where teens come. And they're just throwing financial spaghetti at the wall. And I love that. And these movies are movie spaghetti. And so we have to put on the shelf. I did discuss this with my husband, and it was controversial because I said I can't rate them, because like tier lists, you have S through E. I think it goes pretty low. I think I need to shorten that, because I don't think you need that many tiers. But it can't be like on the same scale as like, like Star Wars or, like Saving Private Ryan. Like it can't be on the same scale that movies that people watch is on, because otherwise they'll all just be at the bottom. So I think the scale is based on what I know about direct-to-TV movies or direct-to-VHS. This is where I think it should go in comparison to movies I haven't seen yet. And I've thought about it. And I think the controversial, I think it's a C, but I don't know if that's too high, but I feel like it could get way worse.
Yeah. So I have seen probably more than you.
Yeah.
So my input. I honestly feel like it's probably one of the better ones, but
that's what scared me. I did see that on several lists. So they're like, well, this one's not that bad. I'm like, oh.
So I feel like B is probably a good cautious place to put it.
Yeah, probably, because I mean, what I'm excited about is Brother Bear 2, because I haven't seen Brother Bear 1, and I'm so thrilled to see Brother Bear 2.
Are you going to watch Brother Bear 1 beforehand?
No, I want to just know what it's like. Because I did talk, this was another thing that I was thinking of criteria of, I was trying to think, are there movies where you can watch the sequel and still enjoy it without seeing the first one? And I think there are examples. Like, I think you could watch, like, Shrek 2 and be like, yeah, I get it. And just have a good time. I don't think this movie's one that you just be like, I'm going to watch this movie and have a good time, because you'd be like, this is moving pretty fast and I don't know why anyone's doing anything. So this doesn't count as one, but maybe Brother Bear 2. That's what I'm getting at, is perhaps Brother Bear 2 is a rare movie where you didn't need the first one. It stands alone. It's like Godfather 2, Brother Bear 2. They're talked about in the same breath. So yeah, I think B, knowing what I know and knowing that like we've got a lot of we got Cinderella time travel, which apparently also is a great one, which I'm ecstatic about. But we also have just lots of mischief. We have a whole one about Lady and the Tramp's son Scamp.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Then he's like, I'll call you Scamp. I'm like,
I guess it makes sense. It's slightly better than Tramp. So, well, I guess, yeah, I'll put it on the shelf at B. I think that's safe, and, you know, I'll live with it. I don't know. Maybe at the end of the 28, that should be an S. I'll be like, I was so naive back then.
Yeah.
But you to be my first guest to participate in the movie night at the end. It's always a pleasure having you on. I love talking about, it's a gentle lampooning, because I always want to say, to the people who worked on this film, I still appreciate it.
Yeah.
I would never know that, Ariel, if she had a kid, it would have Eric's hair in Ariel's face. I wouldn't have known that, and now I do.
Honestly, I think the world is better for Morgana having existed.
I think so, too. I think it's good that...
I'm glad I know about her.
I'm glad I know that there was a room where someone couldn't think of a villain to surpass Ursula, so they said, what if Ursula again? And Ursula Returns, that was 2. I'm glad that maybe they learned from that, and that's why they made Ursula Returns have just 2 Ursulas, because they're like, we did the, second Ursula thing. Is kind of weird. People kind of made fun of us.
I just had a thought, though. Maybe Pat Carroll was like, I want in.
Yeah.
On number 2. And they're like, well, we can't have Ursula come back, but I guess you can be this.
Yeah, imagine how. Is she still with us? Because I think that'd be so fun. She writes a letter to Disney being like, oh, it looks like you can return. So what's that about? You told me I couldn't, and I had to be a whole nother character. Mind you, I don't think they did any work reinventing. They're like, no, just do it again. You don't need to really come up with a new thing. It's fine.
No.
So yeah, this was thematic. So this movie should be called Ursula Returns ? But yeah. So before we say goodbye, where can people find and follow you and your show?
My show is Live, Laugh, Lorcana. You can find us on all your major podcasting platforms. If you just want to hang out with us, though, we hang out on Twitter and Instagram. My sister and I also have separate accounts away from Live, Laugh, Lorcana. I am LLL Becky. So come say hi to me.
You should. They're delightful. I love their show because I think it's fun when you listen to siblings talk, because it's kind of like you're also listening to your sibling, because I think siblings have a certain banter, and it's so nice, because it's like, listen, it's wonderful, and they have great opinions and great insights, and they lift up voices in the community that I think it's always great to hear. So definitely download their show and follow them. And thank you to the listeners for joining us for another episode, but the first episode of this series. As you know, there's always room at the end, so if there's anything you want to hear us talk about, we got 28 more to go on this series, but after that there's gonna be other stuff. This isn't the only thing I'll be doing. This is once a month, but feel free to contact me at contact@thelorekeepersin.com, or reach me on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll have those linked in the description. And as always, thank you for hanging out with me today. I'm always happy to have you stop by wherever your quest may take you, and if you don't know where to find us, just take the second start of the right exit and head straight on till morning.